Hey folks, Papa Boris here, playing some more Altered TCG. We're nearing the end of our first trip around the Horn. Let's play as Yzmir. This was my favorite faction back during the promotional beta, so I am very curious to play with it now because I haven't yet, and the decks are definitely different. There are some cards in the decks that initially were in other factions, and there are also some new cards. All right, what do we got? We got our old friend Sakarabru, and we're just going to go ahead and mulligan that because that is obviously not something I want to keep in the early thing. Discard target character or permanent. All right, so what I want to do that against Bravos. I think probably not against Bravos. This is just too expensive, and it's fleeting. A lot of Bravos' best stuff is like 3 or 4, so I don't think I want to keep that. Now, Alice, great turn 1 play. This is fine. Oh, they also have Beauty Sleep, just like Muna. And then we got the Tooth Fairy. I don't think I've seen this. Oh my god, this is a Sabotage for 2. Okay, I think I'm going to pass on Beauty Sleep. And we'll keep this as a cheap thing to play on turn 2. And we'll play this on turn 1. Yeah. Maybe it was right to keep Beauty Sleep, because Beauty Sleep's a stronger card than this Disciple is. So perhaps I made an error in doing that. We'll see. Okay, so my opponent's first, which means they get this token in the first turn, but they need to commit their mana, so let's see what they do. I do, of course, hope they play a 3-drop, and then I can just use Alice to lock out this Buddha, and we both move. Then it essentially wastes the value of their token. If they pass. I don't know what that means. I don't know why you'd pass. Well, all right then. Maybe this is someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Maybe they have the weirdest hand of all time. This is Bravos, the fast faction. You don't want to be passing on turn 1. And I did just make them completely waste their token. So that's terrific. Okay, great. So it does mean that my Tooth Fairy doesn't have anything to do on turn 2, which is not what I was expecting. And then we have Spycraft, which is similar to the Tooth Fairy. This is fleeting. This is not fleeting, but it doesn't do the come into play effect coming out of the reserve. It also resupplies, which can be useful, but again, there's nothing to really do with it right now. So what I'm going to do is I will pull back the Spycraft. It's a little bit risky, but with me in the lead, I may want to keep Sakarabru. If not, depending on how this round goes, I may decide to just turn this into mana later, but I didn't think I was going to play both the Sabotage and the Tooth Fairy, especially because I might draw more of those. Oh, we got this token floating here. Okay, I am going to refresh the page, and we're going to make it big again. Okay, well, their hero power, remember, by the way, is they always get to go second. Either they are second or they're first, and they get to use this. So let's see what my opponent wants to do this round. Okay, they played one of these. So Alice doesn't exactly beat this. She beats it on water, but not desert. So we'd both move if I played this here. What I think I'm going to do, well, it's tricky. If I Alice over here, I need specifically forest. And that would be kind of a problem because my opponent could potentially beat 2 forest with 2 mana. There are 3 forest cards that have a 2 mana cost, and then that would actually be just throwing away my advantage. Here there's a weak spot with the forest, but unfortunately these disciples also have no forest. So what I'm going to do is play Alice here. The idea being that I am beating the opponent on water and forest. If they play something else over here and shut me out, fine. They move once and I move not at all, and that's okay. But if I went here and they shut me out, they would move twice and I would move not at all. So I feel like it's worth it. Now, it does suck that this disciple doesn't move me in the forest, but if my opponent does shut me out of this lane, I could potentially play the disciple here and move anyway. Okay, so yeah, it sucks. I got the one region that was really bad here, the exactly forest only region, preventing me from getting a second move, which is kind of sad. But I don't see a point in, well, actually, maybe I should just play this just to get it into the reserve, and then I can maybe make a cheaper spell. Okay, we'll do it. There's a bit of a mind game element here where I'm acting like I don't understand how the game works. Potentially, my opponent might think I made a mistake, but we'll see. So we both move there. I don't move here, tragically, and then I'm still a step ahead of the fast faction. Now, they are not card behind the way that they often would be. We got Dorothy. This is very good to keep, I think, against Bravos because they got that big 5 energy guy that adds 3 stats to both lanes, so I definitely want to keep that. This is not great right now because I'm in no water territories. And this is pretty good. I would not mind getting rid of that Pathfinder. And she actually has a forest stat. So I'm actually not sure what to throw away as mana. It might just be the Sakarabru again. Yeah, I'm just going to get rid of it. Everything else has some value. Both of the next 2 territories have water, and then 3 water for 2 energy would be great. So if I can just move something this turn. Although, how am I going to move anything this turn? That's a question. Yeah, how am I moving anything this turn? My opponent has 5 mana, they got the token, and I have got nothing good. I got Dorothy, I guess. I could try to... So I could Dorothy this thing and try to move here with my 3 forest. They'd have to beat 3 forest with 2 energy, which is definitely not impossible. Maybe this is just the move. Let's just get Dorothy out here. And this is a common to play ability from either the reserve or from the hand. This faction does have a sabotage card. It costs 3 energy. So they'll be able to get rid of Dorothy in a future turn. I need to expect Dorothy to be kicked. And I actually... Never mind. I was thinking that maybe I wish I had kept the sabotage and I could use the reserve ability of this to cheapen it into play. But it would have cost 1 mana still, and I have none. So that wouldn't actually matter. The drawback of this is I did not play the Tooth Fairy, but with this here, I can play the Tooth Fairy next turn. Okay, this is... Oh my god, oh Jesus. Okay, well, we're back to... After playing some very tough opponents, clearly the general population got a lot stronger at this game in our time away. We got someone who is still learning the ropes. This only works on permanents that have a hand cost of 4 or less, and Dorothy has a hand cost of 5. So my opponent played a card that went directly into their discard to get rid of their token and not move in this zone at all. So, yeah, my opponent is just on the road to getting wrecked real hard here. Okay, now it's important here. I do need to play this Tooth Fairy and pitch out this warrior before I pass the initiative. And so this is a 3/3 for 3, then a 1/1 for 1. This is just a 1/1/3 for 2 every time. Should I play the Spycraft then? Is that the idea? I have 6 mana. I could pitch this to make this cost 1. So it would be 1, 3, 6. Then I do fill up the discard by doing it that way. Even after getting rid of this, I still am adding 2 cards to the discard. Oh, no, right. Oh, yeah. So that would be like instead of the Tooth Fairy. I could also do 2... Yeah, I think the thing is that I am just going to fill up my discard. So what I'm going to do here is get rid of the Tooth Fairy, play Spycraft, and... Oh, no! Oh, I'm filling up my discard, so I don't want to play Spycraft. That just fills it up even more. Oh, God, I'm bad. Okay, what I'm going to do is just hope that I get something good off of Spycraft, which is probably not the correct way to live life. And hope to play it rather than one of my cards, which is definitely not guaranteed that I would get something playable. Luckily, we got Baba Yaga. A 2/2 for 2 is fine. She does not draw a card coming out of reserve. I have the lake, I have the forest, so her weak stat is not relevant to me, although it is relevant in general because my opponent's tokens are both on desert spaces. Okay, what I think I'm going to do here is just play Baba Yaga here. So the idea is that it doesn't stop my opponent from moving, but I'm threatening to move. I'm attacking my opponent's weak stat. And so now my opponent can either put something else here to guarantee the move, or we just both move here, which I'm fine with. Okay, strong play by my opponent. They're blocking me from moving while making a strong case to move themselves. I was hoping I could actually cheat this, get this into play and cheat a move out, but unfortunately this 4 water's kind of stopping that, and then this is also a 3/3 for 3. So I actually have no useful way to use my cards here. Yeah, there's just nothing here. So, because I could play this and it doesn't stop the forest. Yeah, it's just awkward. I'm gonna pass, much as that sucks, but my opponent moves twice, I move once, so I am still a step ahead because of previous disasters that befell my opponent. One of them self-inflicted. And then next turn I can actually start playing my hand stuff with the space in the reserve. All in all, maybe I would have just been better off keeping the Tooth Fairy so I could get rid of this warrior and prevent it from coming back. Another Sakarabru! I've been putting them all into the trash. Oh dear. Okay, well, my opponent is going to get a token. I'm going to have 7 mana, so I think what I really want to do is play the Lady of the Lake and then keep the mana up for Dorothy. We're going to get rid of one of these Kadrigan Alchemists. Maybe I'll play Sakarabru. We'll see how my opponent decides to play their mana. The thing about this is it's pretty much always your entire turn, and then, you know, by the time you have 7 mana, your opponent can probably beat 4 stats across the board with 7 mana. So I'm not playing it this turn, but maybe next turn. All right, my opponent makes a smart play, just uses 1 energy. Interesting, a 2-for-1 on water, where it's very relevant. All right, well, I think what I'm going to do here is play Lady of the Lake here. Obviously, it's not putting much contention for this water space, but it is some. The other stats are totally irrelevant here. And we'll see what my opponent wants to do. Maybe they just have to play a bunch of mana, and then I can get off a good Dorothy, or maybe they make a weird move because they see Dorothy here, and they don't want to, you know, rock the boat. Obviously, if they have drawn at any point one of their sabotage cards, they should play that and get rid of Dorothy. They would then have 3 mana left. Yeah, you know, it's weird. For how much my opponent has self-handicapped themselves, either I'm playing this deck badly, or it's a bad draw, or it's not a great deck, because I have not been able to, you know, put on consistent pressure here and make strong moves happen. I mean, my opponent just totally wasted a removal spell on their own token and blocked a movement in that expedition. So that's a pretty huge self-inflicted handicap, and I'm not really that ahead on cards or anything. Okay, so my opponent decided to play this. Makes a lot of sense. What I think I'm going to do here is, let's see, I could play Dorothy here, but I don't have Forest now, so I'm not threatening to move. I would just be blocking them from moving. I could Dorothy here and get rid of the token. Then they have 3 mana to beat a 2. That's not good odds. I could just not play Dorothy. I could just play 3/3 on top of their token, see what they want to do. The problem is with 3 mana, they can probably generate 2 stats, and then I just wasted my card. So maybe Dorothy here and pitch this warrior. Then I'd be ahead by 3. They'd have to make up 3 water with 3 mana. And if they can, they get to move here and here, and I move nowhere, and I've used up Dorothy. It's a little bit weird. Yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of this situation. There's this Bravos just putting out big stats is a pretty good strategy. All right, we're just going to try to go here. Kick out this warrior. And see what my opponent wants to do. At least just make him spend the card. Next turn, I'm going to have Lady again. And maybe this, that's 5 mana, and then maybe another card, and I can get another movement to happen. We'll see. At the end of the day, getting 3 water isn't that trivial, but, you know, like something like this, if they have another one of these, they just move here, and they move in both lanes. Maybe you should just never discard sabotage cards, because I find myself wanting that Tooth Fairy, so that if they do play another one of these warriors, next turn I could have played the Tooth Fairy and pitched it out of the reserve. Maybe that's just one of those like things where like a beginner mistake is not realizing how good sabotage is. All right, we got physical training, which is unfortunate. My opponent's gonna go here. That does provide them the boost that they need to tie me. So neither of us is gonna move, but that's only in this lane. In this lane, they do get the movement off their token, and then we are tied. And this is not fleeting. They're going to get this again. So they're going to have this sitting there, and I'm going to know that they can always add +3 to anything for 3 mana, and also draw a card. Wow, that is really strong, the rare version of this. Okay, well, I think I may have misplayed this. I would have definitely liked to kick that out of the reserve. So at least my opponent's not moving here, but they do move here. They catch up. And the fact that we're even at this point in the game on cards and on position after my opponent passed on the first turn and did nothing, and then used a removal spell on themselves to stop themselves from moving on another round, and we're still this close, definitely a sign something has not been correct about my play, or just a general weakness of this deck, or I guess it could be the strength of the Bravos deck, not sure. Well, we got a removal, and there's a good chance that this is going to go on something that does cost 3 or less, so I'm going to get rid of the Banishing Gate. Basically, I get screwed if my opponent does decide to go all in on that big Titan guy. Oh, yeah. If my opponent goes all in on Titan guy, I was a moron, and I should have absolutely kept that Banishing Gate. But, you know, I guess that's how you live and learn. So I have no way of getting rid of reserve cards. My hope here is to play it slow. Basically, put my water character in water, then play this Alchemist, and that leaves me with 3 mana, 2 of which I can spend to use this card to hopefully get rid of something that they used physical training on. And the fact that I can make my opponent go before me is actually really significant, because that's going to make it more difficult for my opponent to not put this on a creature before I have committed the mana I would need for this or to pass the turn. All right, well, here we go. I'm going to make him go. Since I'm not sabotaging anything out of discard, there's no reason for me to play first. I'm guessing my opponent would play. This is such a good card. Dang. It's so good. It's 2 stats for 1 mana. It's a 1 mana card, so it's got that inherent value of you can play it for tempo to avoid committing your mana and force your opponent to commit their mana before you commit yours. And it's got a reserve ability. I mean, dang. Okay, my opponent played this here, so that makes a lot of sense. Forest is totally irrelevant since neither of us needs it, so it's just a 3/3 for 2. I will play Lady of the Lake here. My other stats are irrelevant here, so both of us got 3 relevant stat for 2 mana. And my next play is going to be this Alchemist. This will just tie my opponent's Pathfinder, costing 1 more mana, but I am hoping that my opponent, after the Alchemist, will play this Physical Training, and then I can off you go. So we'll do this here to tie, and I'm hoping my opponent plays this card. If not, well, that's going to suck. Because I'm not even sure this is all that good if my opponent doesn't play the Physical Training. Because best case scenario, my opponent spends 3 mana, and I put that card away. But if they spend 4 mana or 5 mana, I guess I could do it on this. And I suppose facing against Physical Training, having this in reserve is better than it usually is. Like, usually in the reserve, this is kind of a weak card, because you have to pay 4 to get rid of something that costs 3 or less. Alrighty, well, I really wish I could make them go again, but alas, we're gonna off you go on this. My opponent could very easily, for 3 mana, still play something here that just beats me, but I am currently beating them in both lanes, and it's unlikely. Well, yeah, with 1 card, they're not going to beat me in both lanes. So at least at the best case scenario, we're both going to move once. And there's a chance if this isn't a water card. Oh, hang on, they could just replay this. What am I talking about? They could just, this just went into reserve. They could have just replayed this and beaten me here. Then we would have moved once each. Curious move. I don't think I would have done that as my opponent, because this way we're just both moving once, and they used up their Physical Training. I guess maybe they wanted to use a Physical Training to draw a card and use up their mana. No, that's not a bad move. I think that makes sense. They used up the card. They got the card advantage off of it when other things would have been equivalent. I think that's perfectly valid. Okay, so we're equally distant. My opponent has 2 good cards here. There is this. My opponent knows if I have 4 mana open, then I can always off you go something they target with Physical Training. Okay, so we got another off you go and one of these guys. I think this is the turn to play Sakarabru, because I can push them back, and I can also have mana left over to play the off you go from the hand. The bad thing about this is it's going to fill up my reserve, and that's bad. But hopefully I can just push through one more movement before my opponent catches up and wins. They're first, so they're going to be getting a free token here. I am going to get rid of this Disciple because I need the mana. And yeah, let's see what my opponent wants to do. They might get into a mental space where they're like, okay, well, I don't want to trigger this. So once they play Sakarabru, they're going to think that they're safe. And then, wham! Off you go. All right, where do I put Sakarabru? Well, Desert is relevant for my opponent. Their water is tragically relevant for me as well. So I'm going to put it in the opposite lane because I'm beating this token by more. And there's a chance that my opponent will do physical training on this token. And then I can off you go it. And then they'll have to use 3 other mana to beat 4, which is not likely. They do have a warrior thing that's 4 forest and 4 water for 3 mana, and that would block me. It wouldn't move them, but it would block me. However, we'd still end up being kind of equal because they're moving here, and I won't move here if they have that specific card. Anyhow, we'll see. Yeah, God, this is so close. Yeah, it's something. Something's up. I may have played very badly. Obviously, I would have liked to have like more sabotaging effects. All right, they got a sabotage card, which I'm fine with. I'm not attached to either of these cards, and I was going to have to throw away one of them anyways. So that's fine. The awkward thing is that if I play this now, it's not impressive since they're still going to have 3 energy left over to beat me in this lane with. Tragically, this 1 forest attacking the weak spot is irrelevant because I'm not in forest. I could just play this here just to make them play something and then let them move in both lanes. Oh, God. No, this is bad. This is just, it's bad. I think this is more or less just giving up at this point. Because I'm 1 mana short of being able to play this. And it basically is then just have a 4/4/4 in my reserve, but my opponent's going to move twice. Unless they have the... No, they could, at the worst case, they could play physical trading and just get me in both lanes. So then I don't move anywhere. They're going to be any movement wins, and I'm still going to have 2 spaces between my things. I just didn't see the point of playing this because if I play that, what are the odds with 3 mana that they can't generate 3 forest with 3 cards? 0, because they've got this physical trading, right? So because I couldn't get off you go on a physical training target, I didn't see the point of playing it. All right, so they played this, which is fleeting, which gives them the lane. That's fine. So they're going to move twice. They would have already won the game if they hadn't stopped themselves from moving previously. I don't know what to do. Either I need to get better at playing with Yzmir. Maybe I need to, like, value sabotage cards higher and not turn them into mana. Or I just need to acknowledge this deck is not good. Or Bravos is too strong. I'm not sure. Send to reserve up to 3 target characters with total hand cost. Oh, this is kind of like a mass removal card. That's pretty cool. All right, what do I pay for mana? I mean, it might be nothing. 5, 7, 9. This is fleeting. It does fill up my reserve, but I don't mind throwing this away. All right, yeah, I'm just going to pass on making mana. Oh, seemingly my opponent passed on making mana previously. So this is a round in which we're equals. I can make them go first. They don't have a token. I mean, maybe I can stop them from moving in both lanes. Maybe I can surprise them with this. And if I can move in both lanes... Actually, I can't move in both lanes. I'm only playing 1 creature. Okay, well, if I moved in both lanes, I would win. Right, so maybe I can move in 1 lane and then stop them from moving in any lanes. Next turn, they do have the token advantage, which sucks. But maybe there's some sort of trick I can play and get in there. This doesn't have sabotage coming out of reserve, but this is the rare version that gets a boost coming out of reserve, so it's a 3/3 for 3. That would eat up 3 of my 5 here. Like, there's no guarantee this can wipe the board. It's total hand cost 5 or less. Yeah, they're playing it here so that they're not committing their mana. Makes perfect sense. All right. You know, maybe I should have discarded this and like so then I could play this for 4/4/4 and this. As it is, I'm 1 mana short of being able to do that. Well, anyway, Lady of the Lake going into the water. Wait a minute, no, 2, 4, 8. Oh yeah, I cannot play this and play my other 3 cards. That may be okay. We'll see how that goes. If you hear rustling, that's because I'm wearing a winter coat. Or perhaps sniffling because my nose is runny. Let me get a tissue 1 second. Oh, God. Okay. Wow, going into a deep think here. All right, interesting. So they decided to just play a big ol' honker, leaving them with basically no mana. As far as I know, all they could play is the 1-drop that has 2 water or the rat that is just a 1/1/1. So it's a problem. I can't off you go this thing. If I put Chakaraburu here, I am winning this by 2 water. They could potentially tie me with the 2 water 1-drop guy. I mean, whatever. I'm gonna put it here. The thing is, so I could put it here and be threatening to move in both places. The problem is that I cannot off you go this thing because it costs 4. So that would mean that my opponent moves in this and wins. What I have to do is put the Chakaraburu here and hope my opponent doesn't have a 1-drop that's relevant. If they put a rat in here, they win. If they put a rat in here, that does nothing. Yeah, rat here does nothing, they passed. Okay, so now I off you go. Otherwise, I lose the game. And so I move and they don't move, which means that we are in a situation where if either of us moves and the other doesn't, the mover wins. It's a little scary because my opponent does have a token and they also have this big old thing. And a bunch of cards and physical training. So, I mean, it's not going to be likely for me to win. I did get Dorothy. That can be a big changer. I guess I don't need 2 Kraken Wraths, so we'll confirm one of them as mana. It's going to be tough. I mean, I don't honestly give myself very good odds of making this. It sucks that my lady goes here because this is the only place where water benefits me, but the ones are relevant because the desert of the token against the 1 desert of the lady actually lets the enemy move in this lane. But who knows? Let's see what happens. I might be able to get a big move with Dorothy. So basically, if my opponent just completely doesn't play around Dorothy, I could potentially they could play like their big Titan for 5, and then they play the physical training using up 8 of their 9, and then I Dorothy it, and then I win. Like, that is a thing that can happen, so I shouldn't give up yet here. My opponent may be trying to play around this because it's face up. All right, they decided to play this. So I think the move here is I am going to put Lady here. It's unfortunate I don't have any other cards to play that I can also follow up with Dorothy. I would need something that costs 3, and I don't. This unfortunately costs 4, which is devastatingly tragic. But maybe they just commit all their mana and I can do a big Dorothy and something. Basically, if they do like a big card here, leaving themselves with less than 3 mana, I could Dorothy in this lane, get rid of that card. All right, they played Sun Wukong. Okay. So, I could Dorothy here, even though Desert is a weak stat for Dorothy. Throw this off the board. Hope they don't have anything for 2 mana that can beat 2 Desert, which is, you know, a hope. That's, you know, as they say, a vibe. And call it a day. I could also do Kraken's Wrath on the token and Mr. Sun. The idea there is that I am then winning this and they would need to have 3. Oh, yeah, that makes sense, actually. That makes a lot of sense because they're more likely to have 3. God, hang on. If I Dorothy here and get rid of Sun, as far as relevant stats are concerned, I'm only winning by 1. If I get rid of all this with the Wrath, oh, they're moving out here, and they would only need to beat me 1 on Desert. Right, so that's actually less. The maximum amount I can make them have to overcome with 2 mana is 3, which is unfortunate because that's relatively easily done. Okay, well, nothing I can do here. We're going to have to Dorothy out here. And just hope they don't have, out of 3 cards, something that can generate 3 water. Or for that matter, 4 forest, which definitely exists. But we'll see. There's that one Pathfinder card that's 3 desert. Oh, they passed! Oh my god. Alright, well, we passed. This is unfortunately the non-rare Dorothy, whose ability does not work. So that means that we're on tiebreaker. And again, I don't exactly know how the tiebreaker works, just that it seems to be about just generating as many stats as possible. So I'm beating my opponent on mana. I might not want to get mana. Let's see. We have a 3/3/2/2 for 3, which is not terrible, but not great. So what do we got? We got 3, 5, 8 that I'm not playing the Kraken's Wrath. If I throw something away, it's like 7 plus 5 is 12. Crud. Not quite. No, it's not 7. It's 5. Hold on. It's 5 plus 5 is 10. So I can actually already play everything but the Wrath. So I'm going to pass on the mana. I can already play everything but Wrath, and I don't want to throw something away just to play Wrath and something else. Okay. Oh, this is actually the rare version. It's a 4/4/4 for 3, which is good. That's just a lot of stats. And then Sun Wukong, I do have Off You Go for it, which is really good. Tragically, I don't have any Sabotage. That would have been nice. Would have been nice to have some Sabotage. But I can play... No, I counted wrong. Oh my god. It's not 5. This is 7. Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. This is 7. Yeah, I counted it correctly the first time. This is 7, not 5. I don't know what made me do that in my head, the way that I did it. Okay. What I'm going to do here is just play Dorothy here. It's the cheapest play that I have. I am trying to hold off on playing my removal. Unfortunately, there's just 0 chance that my opponent's going to play this until I am below 4 mana, and I can't actually get below 4 mana while have... Oh, no, I can. I can play Kraken's Wrath. Interesting. So if my opponent plays exactly a 2-drop here, I could play Kraken's Wrath. This is a 3, and then I could get rid of this 3 and their 2. So if they play like a 3 or a 4, then Kraken's Wrath is basically useful. They played a 4. Okay, what I think I'm going to do here is just play Kraken's Wrath. Because I could play the Mage, which essentially gives me... Sorry, my alarm's gone off. Which essentially gives me 4/4/4. But then I have 4 mana left, and I can't play more than 1 card with that 4 mana. So I might as well just play this for 5 mana and get rid of this thing. Now, I guess there's another option. I could Off You Go the Wukong, and then maybe they'll play a 1-drop, and I could get rid of the 1-drop and this. Okay, we'll try that. So now my opponent has 2 mana left. I can see what they do. Hopefully it's not a 2-drop. If it is a 2-drop, then unfortunately I have nothing better to do than either play this or just Kraken's Wrath this and hope for the best. If they play a 1-drop, like a Rat, which we haven't seen yet, we've only seen them play, I think, 1/1-drop this entire game. They played a 2-drop. Okay, it's Mr. Forest. Well, I believe the best I can do here, because this is a 4/4/4 essentially, and then I don't have any mana left over to play anything else, whereas this is equivalent to a 5/5/5. So we'll do this. We'll get rid of that. Maxed hand cost of 5. It's letting me click on both of them. Let's just see what happens. Total hand cost exceeds limit effect. Very good, very good. Okay. I was just checking, like, maybe there's some weird world where, like, it actually is that each one is up to 5. No, that would be insane, of course. All right, I think I'm going to win because I have a 3-2-2 and my opponent played a 3-1-1. But, of course, if my opponent hadn't discarded their own thing that one time, they would have already won the game. So, an honorary victory to my opponent, who was screwing around, made some weird moves, but still forced the tiebreaker. So, Yzmir, I'm feeling suspicious about you. But thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.